Team Rivalry Reaction.
How's it going, Big Ten football fans? This is Mackenzie with Team Rivalry, and I've got our last 2023 preview for you right here today, right now, in fact. Michigan fans, I want to take you back to 2011. No, actually, I want to take you back to 2008. Let's go back to 2008, a little bit further. Lloyd Carr has just retired. Okay. And in comes this hot new coaching commodity named Rich Rodriguez, who has developed this brand new spread style offense that's taking college football by storm. Offenses are scoring hundreds of thousands of points per minute. And he has a ton of successes at his alma mater. Well, I shouldn't say a ton because I don't remember if they won a national title, but they did well. They were doing well and all that. And everyone was thinking, okay, when Rich Rod comes to Michigan, he's going to have resources, he's going to have talent, and it's likely that he would win a national championship, or at least Michigan would start some sort of dynasty. Okay. That's not what happened. If you read Three and Out, I want to say it's called. I think it's pretty. Three and Out by John Bacon. It's about Rich Rodriguez's tenure at Michigan. And without speaking on the whole book, because this video would end up being about 70 hours long, several days long, essentially what I got from it is that Lloyd Carr didn't want Les Miles for obvious reasons. Les Miles had an affair with Gary Muller's wife. I believe it was Gary Muller. And they got into a bar fight, and that's why Gary Muller got fired, is because he punched Les Miles. And Les Miles, not being someone of great character in that regard, maybe he's a changed man now, really don't know. Either way, he wasn't wanted. Lloyd Carr didn't really want him to be the next Michigan coach, even though I think a lot of the fans were hoping that he would be at the time. I was 11 at the time. No. Oh my gosh. No, I wasn't 11. I was born in 94. So 2005, I was 11. So 12, 13, 14 at the time. Whatever. Anyway. Lloyd Carr then calls Rich Rodriguez, and Rich Rod gets the job. Okay, so Rich Rod has a fairly disastrous opening press conference being announced as Michigan's head coach. Some reporter asks him, do you have to be a Michigan man in order to coach Michigan football? And instead of having some sort of big, tough, insightful thing to say, Rich Rod responds with, well, gosh, I hope not. Okay, now here's the thing. Throughout the book, it is made very clear that Rich Rod is a good man and a talented coach, even if not the best at PR. But either way, the Rich Rod era happens. Michigan doesn't make a bowl game for 2 years, and then finally makes a bowl game his last year, and then they get blown out by Mississippi State. I remember watching that game and thinking, this is it for Rich Rod. And then shortly after that, they announced that he gets fired. I was sad because I thought they were on an upward trend. I mean, they had made a bowl game, and it seemed to me that the defense was the issue primarily with those teams, but whatever. That's history. Okay. So up next comes Brady Hoke. Brady Hoke was a player under Bo, I believe. I believe he also coached under Lloyd Carr at one point. I feel like I'm going to get that totally wrong, and I don't really feel like verifying it right now. Maybe I can verify that a bit later and put it in the comments section or something. But anyway, I'm pretty sure he was a player under Bo. I'm fairly certain of that. In any case, he was at San Diego State. He gets the call. He comes to Michigan, and Dave Brandon is the athletic director. And if you read End Zone, which I think it's called End Zone by John Bacon, that's all about the Brady Hoke era at Michigan. And Dave Brandon was such a businessman and wanted so badly to bring back the mythology that was Bo Schembechler to Michigan football to reestablish that sort of magic, that he asked Brady Hoke if they could tell Michigan fans. He asked Brady Hoke, actually, if he could offer Hoke the job without telling him how much he would get paid, so that they could then tell fans and the press that Hoke accepted the job without even asking what he was getting paid, which I'm pretty sure was a Bo Schembechler thing. I think that's what happened with Bo, and so that was Dave Brandon's idea of reestablishing the magic of Bo Schembechler football at Michigan. Okay, because the entire fan base was so divided and distraught after the Rich Rodriguez debacle, which I don't entirely blame on Rich Rod. For as bad as he was at PR, he was a good coach. Even if there were a couple of things that didn't go his way, he was sabotaged by a lot of other people, and you're not going to change my mind on this. It's actually not even a matter of opinion anymore. That's fairly factual at this point. And I say fairly because there are some details that I'm missing. Anyway, Brady Hoke didn't suffer from that sort of thing. He suffered from administrative incompetence, not necessarily of a business standpoint, because that's kind of what was Michigan athletics downfall at the time. Was Dave Brandon was too much of a businessman and had too much of his head was in the clouds too much. He kept trying to reestablish, as I say, the magic of Bo, and that just wasn't going to happen with Brady Hoke. So Brady Hoke agrees to it. He's all confused if you read the book, but he agrees to it. And so they go ahead and they announce it. And then Brady Hoke has his speech. This is Michigan, for God's sake. And we would have walked to the University of Michigan if we had to. And that's all well and good. But then all of a sudden, he follows that up with an 11-win season. And Michigan faithful everywhere, maybe a few weren't this way, but I certainly was. I thought Michigan football is back. This is it. We're back on top. We're going to be competing every year for national championships now under Brady Hoke, because his defenses were freaking elite, man. I mean, he had great defenses. Ironically, not as good as what we're seeing right now. I'm pretty sure. I'll have to dive into the stats, but it feels now like our defenses now are even better. But he had really good defenses, and so you're thinking, okay, defense wins championships. There you go. His offenses were come and go, but while Denard Robinson was the quarterback, the offense could pretty much basically do no wrong, even if there were times when Denard made some questionable tosses and questionable plays. He was a phenomenal quarterback when he was on his game, and he was often on his game. Let's not act like he wasn't. But then things started to go a little bit south from there. Okay, so that first season, he's got 11 wins. He wins the Sugar Bowl against Virginia Tech. Good stuff. The next season, they win 8 games. I believe they go to a bowl game and they lose. The season after that, I think at that point, don't go to a bowl game. And then I think he got one more season, and the 2014 OSU game would be his last game. That was the game where I believe it was JT Barrett JT Barrett, I think, broke his ankle, and Devin Gardner walks out on the field and prays with him. Pretty sweet. Again, I think Brady Hoke was a character guy, but for some reason he just wasn't the coach that Michigan needed. If you had asked me, I would have thought that they should have fired Greg Robinson, who was Rich Rod's defensive coordinator at one point, and brought in Brady Hoke as the defensive coordinator. And if you can imagine a Rich Rod Brady Hoke tandem, I mean, that team would have been unstoppable for quite some time. But that's just not how things worked out, and that's fine. Because up next comes Jim Harbaugh. And 2015 is a solid start. 2016 is even better. 2017 is a head-scratcher because Wilton Spate, I was going to say Joe Wilton, but that's not his name. Wilton Spate gets injured against Purdue. I believe he broke his spine, or something in his spine was broken, and Purdue's hospital system almost botched trying to get him help even. 2017 is a tough year. Okay. 2018, we start off with the loss to Notre Dame. It's competitive, though, so we're thinking, all right, this will be a 9-win season. We'll get back to some sort of good way of going or whatever. But instead, it turns into win after win after win after win after win. And all of a sudden, Michigan is looking really good. Okay, 2018, did they beat Michigan State? I want to say, yes, they did. They beat Michigan State, and then they get all the way to Ohio State, and they blow it. Ohio State blows the doors off of them. I think that was Dwayne Haskins, actually, even. Yeah, I believe that was Dwayne Haskins. May he rest in peace. And then they go to a bowl game, and they lose that, too. So Michigan, at this point, is starting the trend of great seasons until they hit Ohio State, and then they just fall apart, and then they don't make the bowl games. Now, okay, 2019 starts off fairly shaky. Those first couple of games, Middle Tennessee was fine. Army was a palm sweaty head scratcher. Wisconsin was a blowout loss. That was not fun to watch. And then all of a sudden against Penn State, they started to figure something out. They lost that game too, so things weren't looking great. Obviously, CFP was out of the question, but a lot of people were thinking maybe they could figure things out enough to go to Ohio State and put something together. They didn't. They lost that. And then they play Alabama in the bowl game. They lose to Alabama. Okay. But it wasn't a total falling apart of a season. It was just not as good as we were hoping. 2020 happens. And I'm going to tell you why I'm going through all of this is because I figured something out with the YouTube algorithm. It prefers longer videos, but also because this is going to set up what I'm going to say for Michigan football in 2023. 2020 happens and it's a disaster and everybody wants Jim Harbaugh fired, including me. I did. I won't lie. I wanted him fired. That was an unacceptable season. It made no sense. The only person to get fired out of all of that was Don Brown, at least that I know of. Okay, but the 2021 recruiting class stays intact. All right? J.J. McCarthy is still coming. Donovan Edwards is still coming. We've got these players still coming. And they had every reason to transfer. Or not transfer, go somewhere else, commit somewhere else. Cade McNamara comes in and in 2020 leads the comeback against Rutgers, and I can't believe I'm saying that was a comeback against Rutgers. Goodness gracious. But he does it, and all of a sudden, you're starting to see some life with this team. 2021 was where it all changed. In the offseason just before 2021, you could kind of feel like something was happening because there was no hype whatsoever for Michigan football. I remember that offseason, I texted my dad, and I said, there is absolutely no hype for Michigan football this season. I have a feeling Michigan is going to go to the Ohio State game 11-0, at least 10-1. And I texted him that, and you can ask him that. He'll verify. He'll vouch for me. That happened. Absolutely. And we all know what happened in 2021. First win against Ohio State since 2011. First CFP appearance. First Big Ten championship since 2004. All of these things happened because of a culture change, and then in 2022, they doubled down on it. And it was all because of a culture change, and now they have talented players to boot. So, what am I getting at here? Why did I go through all of that history? Well, the reason is this, because I've been a Michigan fan for as long as I can remember. All right, I was there for the Appalachian State loss. I wasn't at the stadium, but I remember dealing with the fallout of that game. That was just disgusting and disturbing. I remember when Michigan State started to do well under D'Antonio and Michigan started losing to them every year. I remember friends just giving me all kinds of crap for that. I remember how hopeless the Ohio State game always felt. And I know I remember thinking the Big Ten championship was this mythical land that we'd probably never see, but, let's enjoy some good double-digit win seasons anyway. Whatever. So that's all well and good, but then something in 2021 changed. And if you were the type of fan that had to live through all of that, you have been waiting for this moment. You have been waiting. I understand that Michigan got blasted by Georgia in the CFP. I did not care. Because we beat Ohio State and we won the Big Ten, and that's what we said we were going to do that year. Okay, that was the goal. That's what we've been wanting for quite some time now as Michigan fans. And we did it, and that's fine. Moving on. 2022. I know they were saying that they wanted to win the national championship. I know that was a goal. And I can't tell you what happened against TCU defensively. They figured TCU had a great game plan on offense. And the defense still made some really good plays, even though they most of the time did not. You don't give up 51 points and expect to win the game. So I can't tell you what happened there, except there was a defensive letdown. Offensively, though, Michigan, despite 1-2 mistakes, I think it was, and again, it's, if you take away those 2 plays, Michigan wins. If you give Michigan the touchdown that was overturned but shouldn't have been, then Michigan wins. If, there's all these ifs and stuff like that. The ifs don't matter. All right, TCU won the game. It's frustrating. You can blame the refs all you want. At the time, I did. But TCU had a great game plan on offense as well, and Michigan didn't have the answers on defense when they needed them most. That's fine. That's football. That's football. You can look at the paper all day and say, well, on paper, Michigan should have trounced TCU. Yeah, probably. But until the game is, once you're on the field, the papers don't matter. The stats don't matter. Maybe in some cases they do when there's a huge mismatch. But people were saying that Ohio State was going to beat Michigan and it wasn't going to be close. There were some pundits saying that. And look what happens. So TCU beats Michigan. And that's a surprise. It's disappointing, but who cares? We made it to the CFP again. We've got back-to-back Big Ten championships. We've got back-to-back wins against Ohio State and the first win in Columbus since 2000. So the second time, I think, that Michigan has won in Columbus in my lifetime, I want to say. Nope. I think they won in 1997? 98, maybe? I can't remember. Whatever. Anyway. Obviously, I can't remember. I was 3. All of that is going to bring me to 2023. And all of that is to set up the context behind what I'm going to say about 2023. Because here's the deal. I think Michigan is the best team in the country. Let me rephrase that. I think that there is an argument for Michigan to be the best team in the country in 2023. Obviously, Georgia is the hang-up in that. Okay. Georgia is elite. They're not a rebuild, they're a reload kind of team. And they are expected to win a third national championship. And I think that they probably will. Okay. But here's where we start the 2023 Michigan preview. Because something is different about this Wolverines program. So no longer are we rebuilding from year to year whenever we lose players. And obviously we didn't really lose a ton of starters from last season. I know Mozzie Smith and one other guy is gone. I can't remember his name. What is his name? Mozzie Smith and let me keep going here. I know who it was. Michigan's defense. Here we go. Personnel. Mike Morris. That's who it is. Mozzie Smith and Mike Morris are both gone to the NFL. Okay. But that being said, Michigan has a lot on defense to be excited about. So, where was I going with this before? So, Michigan, I think, in 2023 will be better than 2022. Actually, I don't even think that that's a bold statement. I think that that's just going to be a fact at this point. Michigan has Nikhai Hill-Green coming back on defense after missing the entire last season with a hamstring injury. I believe Michael Barrett is returning. Junior Colson, I believe, is returning. And then they also are bringing in Ernest Hausman from Nebraska. He's a defensive back from Nebraska. He was their best defensive back. So he'll be looking at potentially starting this season. Obviously, I think he's a senior too, so I think this is his only season of eligibility with Michigan, I want to say. I believe Jamon Green. You know what? I'm not going to say anything about Jamon Green because I can't remember if he moved on to the NFL or not. I can't remember. But in any case, point being, because this video is already getting really long, point being is defensively, Michigan is going to be good. And in fact, I think that they'll be better than they were last season. everybody, they didn't lose a lot, and all of or everybody who started on defense last season, they were, your sophomores and juniors. So now we're starting to see juniors and seniors on this defense. So they're going to be a little bit more seasoned, which is very exciting. The offense is what I am particularly excited about. Blake Corum's back. JJ's back. Donovan Edwards is back. We've got CJ as a wideout. We've got, not Luke Schoonmaker, who is the other one? Colston Loveland is our tight end. We also brought in a tight end transfer as well. Let me remember his name. AJ Barner from Indiana. He's going to bring some much needed talent to fill out our tight ends a little bit. Colston Loveland's a really good tight end. That's not what I'm saying. And we've got some good backups and stuff like that too. Nobody that's entirely proven, I don't think. Colston Loveland scored the touchdown against Ohio State, which is great. But AJ Barner is going to bring some seasonality, some veteran talent to the tight ends. The offensive line is going to win another Joe Moore Award because they're bringing back Zach Zinter. They're bringing back, let me grab other names here. I can't remember all of them. One second. Let me grab all them names because I can't remember all of them. I should be able to remember them, but I can't because why would I? Oh my goodness, where did they go? There they are. Okay, so the only player leaving is center Olu Oluwatimi. I believe he's going to Charlotte, actually. He's following a coach there, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a loss. But Ryan Hayes, Trevor Keegan, and Zach Zinter, I believe, are all coming back. That being said, there are players with experience that can fill in some of these roles as well. So we've got our first stringers are in, and then we've also got some second stringers that could bring a lot of talent to this as well and some experience too. Jeffrey Percy, Giovanni El Hadi, Reese Atterbury, Raheem Anderson, and Greg Crippen. And then we also added Ladarius Henderson and then Drake Nugent and Miles Hinton, who are both, I believe, from Stanford. We added them as transfers. Miles Hinton being a former 5-star as well. I believe they're all still 5-stars. Drake Nugent is a 4-star. We've got Miles Hinton. He's on 247 Sports, a 4-star. And then Ladarius Henderson is also a 4-star. So all of these players for the offensive line are going to be looking at potentially starting, or if they're backups, then we've got a backup line that could also contend for a Joe Moore Award. So the offensive line is going to be stacked, and that's going to be awesome. Jack Tuttle is going to bring some experience to our backup quarterbacks. Saw the spring game. Wasn't terribly impressed. It's a spring game. I would expect Davis Warren or Alex Orji to probably be QB2. Jack Tuttle is probably going to be someone that if we're up, quite a bit on a team and we're just kind of cycling through the QB room, then Jack Tuttle will get some reps. But I do believe that there was a pretty interesting battle for QB2 over the offseason, so we'll see what happens there. Ernest Hausman was the linebacker I was talking about. He is also a 4-star transfer from Nebraska. And then we've also got James Turner coming in as a 3-star kicker from Louisville. So that'll be interesting. That's the only question mark that I can really see on this team right now is I think safety we were covered. I wanted to say at one point safety I was concerned about. I can't remember what I was thinking with that, but I think we're good there. Wide receiver, I know we've got CJ, and we've also got Darius Clemens, and then Darius Clemens, and then our couple of tight ends to help fill that out a little bit. So we're also looking at the potential for this team to start slinging it around a little bit more too. So watch out for that. But the biggest question mark I could think of right now was kicking. Who's going to take over for Jake Money? And I don't know. I'm not going to really speculate because I think that whoever they pick is going to do just fine. So not really concerned about that. Darius Clemens is coming back. Yep, here we go. Okay, so in terms of kicking, so we've got Tommy Doman Jr. Is coming back for his 3rd year with Michigan. He's got a big leg. He was a former 5-star punter. Apparently also one of the best kickers in the country coming out of high school. And so potentially could handle both punting and kicking, which would be, I guess, pretty sweet. But that also increases the chance for injury. So I don't know if they'd actually do that. But okay, so I've talked a lot of stats, I've talked a lot of numbers, I've talked a lot of details and stuff like that. What's my actual prediction? Because we're coming in on 25 minutes here. The 2023 season starts off with cupcake after cupcake after cupcake. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little disappointed in this non-conference slate. But whatever. So we start off with East Carolina. That's a win. We got Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV after that. That's a win. Bowling Green actually just got announced as a night game. That's also a win. Also, East Carolina is going to be on Peacock. It's the first Michigan game since the mid-'90s to not be televised on traditional television. So, herky dirt. There you go. We got Rutgers coming to town on September 23rd. Rutgers will be interesting. I can't remember everything I said about their 2023 preview, but Rutgers I don't expect to be very good this season. Yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that. I think this is a pretty solid mismatch in favor of Michigan. Nebraska will be interesting. I don't see them being competitive against the likes of Michigan in year one under Matt Rule. But it would be an interesting game to see just where that program is. If Nebraska's competitive in it, then I think that spells probably a bright future for Nebraska. I think that would probably mean more of a bright future for Nebraska than it does trouble for Michigan. Because even under Scott Frost in 2021, they almost beat Michigan, and Michigan still went on to trash Ohio State and win the Big Ten championship. So, these games can be competitive. Minnesota, an interesting game, but I think Minnesota is running out of talent. I think that they're running out of time as well. I do see Michigan winning this game, so we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-0 with Minnesota. Indiana, I think Michigan's going to steamroll them as well. They don't have the players to keep up with Michigan right now. Not trying to be offensive. I'm sorry. I'm just saying it's true. Michigan State is a dumpster fire of a program right now. Their top receiver, Keon Coleman, transferred to Florida State, and then their starting quarterback, oh my goodness, what was his name? Peyton Thorne, transferred to Auburn. So we've got Noah Kim starting for the Spartans, and I don't believe he started a game yet, and I think he's seen minimal game time action, if I'm not mistaken. So he's not very experienced. I think he was a talented recruit, but very little experience. So we'll see how that goes. But they are losing players to the transfer portal. And so Michigan State's roster is fairly depleted at this point. And I actually don't think that they're even going to make a bowl game. But that's that. So is that 8-0, 6, 7, 8-0. Purdue, interesting game. I think Purdue will be a fun team to watch. They've got a new coach. They've also got to break in a new quarterback, and I think several new players. I don't think they did. Did they get transfers coming in? I want to say. Let's just quickly check that. Transfers for Purdue. Transfer rank 30th, so not bad. Let's see who they're bringing in. They're bringing in a safety, 3-star, 4-star defensive lineman from Vanderbilt. Nice. 4-star cornerback, 3-star receivers. Wow, they've got a lot of transfers coming in. They're bringing in Hudson Card from Texas. Yeah, okay. That could be interesting. So, I mean, they're transfers. They've got experience and stuff like that. They don't have experience playing with each other, so I don't know if this will necessarily equate to a ton of wins right off the bat for Purdue. But by late in the season, maybe they could be a bit improved. Maybe they finally start to gel. They'll probably lose a couple early on, but if they start to gel and figure some things out, then they could be dangerous going forward. This game is at home for Michigan, though, so I've still got Michigan winning this one. And this is where I'm going to get trashed. My opinion on Penn State. I think they're overrated. And they're overhyped. I think they're overhyped. Drew Allar should be a good quarterback. And I'm not saying that they won't be good. I'm just saying that they're not going to beat Michigan. Or I don't expect them to beat Michigan. But I think out of everyone that Michigan plays, and this is going to give away my prediction for the rest of the season. Actually, I won't say that. Let's move on real quick. Maryland, Michigan's going to win that. I know Talia Tagovailoa is back for his last season, I want to say. They're a decent team. They don't have what they need to beat the likes of Michigan right now. Just on a player-to-player standpoint, I think that they just don't have what they need right now. And then also, when they played Michigan last season, they had opportunities to take control of that game and threw it away. Literally, they threw a couple of interceptions and made some fairly sloppy plays that cost them the game. And Michigan was able to hang on and take control of that. Well, not take control because it was a one-score game, but there you go. Ohio State is breaking in a new quarterback. Granted, by this game, he'll have experience. They have questions on the offensive line, and then defensively, as much as they were improved in 2022, they still got smoked by Michigan in both facets of the game, running and passing. Michigan's going to win this game. Okay. Michigan's going to win this game because I expect Michigan to be throwing the ball more. So Michigan, I think, will probably find holes in the defense that will be able to at least hold some pass rush at bay to give JJ time to throw the ball and throw it downfield. He can sling it, and he's going to be better this season. So I see him, and I see Michigan in general throwing the ball a little bit more this season. Now, I don't know if they'll necessarily need to because they've got both Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards coming back, although both of them can catch out of the backfield. Donovan Edwards, I think, is a bit better at that. Donovan Edwards can also throw the ball himself. So who really knows what they're going to do? But I think you're going to see a really balanced attack from Michigan. I don't think that they have to rely anymore on just outlasting Ohio State. I think that they can start the game with the pedal to the metal and impose their will that way rather than just trying to tire Ohio State out. Rather than just trying to out-physical Ohio State. I think that they have the talent necessary to totally out-scheme Ohio State, to throw the ball over Ohio State's defensive backs like they did last season, but even more consistently, probably even another couple of times. They had three touchdowns, 3 long touchdowns in the air last season. I think this season they could do more than that, or they would try to. They might not need to because, again, they've got Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards coming back. So I think Ohio State just doesn't have what they'll need this season to beat Michigan, to start coming back in this series. So I see Michigan getting win number 3 against Ohio State, 3rd in a row here, which means that I expect Michigan to go 12-0. 11-1 at best, because I think, and this was I was going to say earlier, I think Penn State has the best chance out of everybody to beat Michigan, mostly because this game is at Beaver Stadium, but also because outside of quarterback, I think Penn State has the most let's say, consistent roster year over year in the Big Ten. Or at least maybe the most talented or solidified. I don't know. Take your pick. That being said, James Franklin kind of has this weird way of blowing big games. So that could happen too. I mean, remember in 2021, Michigan went into Penn State on a roll, and Penn State had been struggling, and Penn State still almost won, but then Michigan comes back and beats them. So Penn State's a better team, but also so is Michigan. There you go. In any case, my final prediction for Michigan, I think it's more likely that they go 12-0 than they do 11-1, but I do think that the ceiling is 12 wins and the floor is 11 wins. I expect them to win the Big Ten championship again. I expect them to go to the CFP this time. I expect them to at least win the semifinal game. I expect Michigan to win the semifinal game. And if that happens, then I will be happy. Because I think that what will probably happen is they'll go to the national championship against Georgia and probably lose that game depending on how Georgia's quarterback situation looks. But again, like I said earlier, Georgia is a reload team, not a rebuild team. So to me, Georgia's still pretty elite. And also Alabama's got a good roster coming into the season as well, so you can't overlook them. And then I know LSU is starting to kind of pick things up. So we'll see what happens from the SEC standpoint. But to me, I think Georgia has the best chance at a three-peat, and then Michigan has the second best chance to win the national championship. That's what I'm thinking. And I think I'm going to stop it there because I've been going on for 34 minutes and my voice is getting dry and it's hot in here because it's 90 degrees outside and I had to shut the door, and that's where the air conditioning comes from. So if you agree with my takes, great. Give this video a like. If you disagree, still like the video because it helps me, and that's just a nice thing to do. I would appreciate it. That'd be awesome. If you think my takes are trash, go ahead and let me know in the comments section. You guys are taking me quite literally on that. So thanks, I guess. But yeah, go ahead and leave a comment. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss a video. Subscribe too if you feel like it. That'd be dope. Thank you. And we'll see you in the next video.